I'm Mary Durgan, and today I will be covering the case against Adnan Syed. On January 13th, 1999, 18-year-old Heyman Lee vanished from her home without a trace. She left her school after class and was never seen again. 4 weeks later, Heyman Lee's body was recovered in a nearby park. She had been murdered, strangled, and this was now a homicide investigation. Investigators were soon directed to her ex-boyfriend, Adnan Syed. This case sparked a groundbreaking investigation that has still not been solved to this day. Today, we'll take a deeper dive into the case against Adnan Syed. A disclaimer: I will be covering topics related to murder and showing real crime scene photos. Since these photos are from the real time, the quality of some photographs are low and reused. However, viewer discretion is advised. I'll now start the presentation. Heyman Lee was a high school senior at Woodlawn High School in Baltimore, Maryland. Hay was from South Korea, and she played lacrosse and field hockey in high school. Hay moved to Baltimore when she was very young and was remembered as being responsible, kind, generous, and beautiful. Unfortunately, her life was cut short. This is Adnan Syed. Adnan was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and was also born to immigrant parents. Adnan attended Woodlawn High School as well, where he met Hay. He was described as outgoing, popular. He was prom prince and even led prayers at his mosque. So why was this well-rounded student a suspect in a murder case? Hay and Adnan's relationship started out like a storybook. It began with prom and ended in a love triangle. They had to keep their dating a secret. Hay had a diary that she kept documenting the whole relationship. It had its ups and downs, but it ultimately ended with Hay falling in love with another man. This is Don, a man that Hay met while working at a new job. In her diary, it is clear that she struggled with her relationships and her feelings between these two men. Adnan would further claim that he was civil with Don and there was never any turbulence after their breakup. On January 13th, 1999, Heyman Lee disappeared after school without a trace. It became obvious something was wrong when she did not pick up her cousin from school. Hay was always very responsible, so this was out of character. Her mother reported her missing to the Baltimore County Police, and an investigation immediately began. So, Hay was missing, and the only lead they had was Adnan. Adnan would later deny all accusations against him, and a much more complicated story would soon arise. First, however, they had to find Hay. It was thought that Adnan could not handle the breakup, and he killed Hay out of spite. Heyman Lee's partially buried body was discovered by Alonzo Sellers in Lincoln Park in Baltimore, Maryland on February 9th, 1999. She was strangled. On February 12th, police received an anonymous phone call telling them to look into Adnan. The man who found Hay was cleared of any suspicions, despite having a history of sexual assault. Investigators pursued their investigations of Adnan, and he stated that he took the breakup well and handled it like any other high school breakup. However, there was someone else to the story. When police obtained Syed's phone, it became clear that Adnan had been talking to one person that night that Hay went missing, a girl named Jess. Jess claimed to have been with Syed that night, and he knew that he was with this guy named Jay Wilds. Jay had graduated from Woodlawn the year before, and he sometimes did drugs with Adnan. Jay has the most complicated story out of everybody. Nothing adds up with him. However, it was apparent that he was telling the truth about something. He knew something that no one else knew, where Hay's car had been left. Jay told the police that he remembered going shopping with Adnan this day. He picked up Adnan from school and dropped him off. His storyline somehow aligned with Jess's. Jay knew something, and he had also been able to lead the police to Hay's car. On the same day that Hay's car was found, Adnan Syed was arrested for first-degree murder of Heyman Lee and brought right to the interrogation room, where he was confronted with Jay's story. Jay claimed that Adnan strangled Hay and called Jay to come help him bury the body. Jay admitted to seeing Hay's dead body. The last person to see Adnan before she went missing, was Asia McLean. She supposedly saw Adnan in the library and briefly spoke to Adnan about his breakup with Hay. Asia said that she took it well, just like he took it well, just like any other teenage breakup. This piece of evidence was never used in court. Outside of the courthouse, suspicion was directed back to other suspects like Don, her other boyfriend. Their first date was only a couple weeks before Hay went missing. Don was cleared because he was working this day. However, there was still suspicion because his boss at the time was his own mother. There was yet another suspect in the case. Ronald Lee Moore, a man who was released from prison 10 days before Hay was murdered. Moore was also identified as a suspect in a former murder case of another Asian woman where the MO was very similar. These two cases were very similar, and this also caused suspicion. All other suspects besides Adnan were eventually ruled out. Throughout his trial, Adnan's childhood friend, Rabia Chaudhry, was there throughout the entire thing. Rabia is an immigration lawyer who worked with Adnan throughout his investigation and soon became the author of the book Adnan's Story. Rabia's story and support for Adnan sparked the interest of American journalist Sarah Cohen. Despite Rabia's efforts, Adnan stayed in prison. That was until 2014, when Sarah Cohen worked to produce a podcast, the Serial Podcast, taking a deeper dive into Adnan's case. This reopened the case completely. In February of 2015, Adnan Syed gets a new hearing. This was mostly thanks to the Serial Podcast from Sarah Cohen. In November, a judge granted him a new hearing after hearing his appeal in February. This would allow the introduction of new evidence. Adnan had a chance to be free. The hearing occurred in 2016, where his defense team argued that his original defense had been negligent and did not produce enough evidence to prove that Adnan was innocent. He thought he had more to show. The team hearing also questioned why his defense team never questioned the reliability of the cell phone towers. A judge in Maryland eventually granted a new trial for Syed in June. Of course, Heyman Lee's family expressed pain and outrage after hearing this news. In 2018, Syed won, and he was released from prison eventually in 2022. September 19th, Adnan Syed walked out of prison, 41 years old, a free man. In conclusion, in this case, it is clear that someone is lying. Even though Adnan Syed was released from prison in 2022, that doesn't mean that he's innocent. Even with other suspects being present, I am still not convinced that Adnan had nothing to do with the strangulation and murder of Heyman Lee. And I'm not the only one that thinks this, because Adnan's conviction was reinstated in March of 2023 when a Maryland court found that a family member of Hay was not given enough notice of Adnan's release. The most amusing part of all of this is how Jay was able to escape all of this without seeing the inside of a jail cell. This case is still active. Unfortunately, Hay's family will have to wait a little longer to find justice for their daughter. Do you believe Jay's story of Adnan killing Hay? Is he a calculated killer who couldn't take the rejection? Or is there more to this tragic story? Thank you.